often hear about while meditating this common terminology which everyone uses is energy. So let us try to understand what this energy is all about and how this is influencing our day-to-day activities and things such. Let me share my screen. So we let us explore this in a very practical way, and we'll not get into the concepts, but we will try to understand what the things that we experience every single day. So we'll keep this simple. And to begin with, the first day of this week, we will just get into the fundamentals, the basics, try to understand what energy really is and why it often feels that it is blocked or we're getting drained. So, so let us try to understand this closer. And so, when we say, so when we what we see, what let's try to understand how we experience this in a daily life. So let us try to understand from observing things that happens daily. So we must have often experienced this. Sometimes we feel very tired, even when we haven't done much. We haven't done much of physical work, but we feel very much drained. And sometimes we feel fresh, even with very less sleep in the night. I'm pretty sure 99% of all of us would have experienced at some point or the other. So what I'm trying to bring attention is that this tells us that energy is more than physical effort. So let us try to take a step down and try to understand what do we mean by energy. So we'll not go in a very conceptual manner. We'll try to understand the basics at a very basic level. So when we say energy, we usually think of physical strength. That's what comes in mind, right? But energy is also that allows us to think clearly, the capacity to act, the capacity to feel, the capacity to think clearly, and the capacity to stay present. So it's the basic function of all these levels typically. Now let's understand what science says about energy. So there are many practical meanings that science is saying. So physics says it's all about ability to do the work. Biology talks about fuel efficiency, metabolism, nervous system. We heard about nervous system in last couple of weeks. And neuroscience also shows that even thinking and focusing consume energy. There are many research that has done which prove that neuroscience has proved that the energy is being consumed by just by focusing and thinking. Now, what let's understand what energy is from a spiritual view. So we all know this term called prana, which is also known as life force. This is what energy is. And energy is present in all living beings. It responds to awareness. So we heard this multiple times. Where energy flows, where awareness goes, energy flows. So energy is consumed in this manner from spiritual angle. Now, what is the nature of energy? So we have learned this in our school times that energy is not created, not destroyed. It is being transformed from one form to another. So similarly, try to understand this nature of energy. So nature of energy is that it doesn't vanish. It doesn't just disappear. And it is always in motion. Now, the only question is whether it is flowing freely or is it getting blocked or leaking without us even noticing it. This is the thing that actually happens, which we need to really focus upon. Now, let us try to understand the common energy leaks, because this is where we tend to unconsciously actually drain all these energies. So it doesn't look dramatic, but with knowingly or unknowingly, the energy is being leaked. And what are the most common factors why energy leaks? They are replaying past conversations, constant inner chatter or inner dialogue that we all keep doing within our minds, multitasking continuously. So we all know multitasking is important, but there are times when we do that almost regularly. And being mentally elsewhere, which is not being in the present moment. Physically and mentally, we are seeing something, we are doing something, but there is barely something else happening in the mind. So all of these are most common areas where energies are leaked. Let us now understand what emotional energy blocks are. So emotions carry energy. We heard that the last week about the emotions. So these emotions actually carry energy, and when these emotions are suppressed or if they are unresolved, that energy stays locked in the system, and over a period of time this creates a sense of heaviness or fatigue, and it all results to the disease. Now let us try to understand why energy gets blocked. Now, from an inner perspective, the energy when it is flowing, it is more lighter and it is alive, right? And whenever there is a resistance, there is always a friction. Okay. Now, whenever there is the body is at stress, the body then the body tends to become alert. That is similar. It is same with nervous system as well. The nervous system gets activated, and whereas an ideal situation, the body is supposed to be at ease, and nervous system is supposed to be at a calm state. That is the reason we meditate. But when it is not, even if you're not doing anything, these systems are always being in the buzz, and which eventually blocks the energy. There's a mental overload that happens in the system. And whenever there is a resistance inside the system, there is always a friction. Friction follows that resistance. And whenever these friction happens, there is always a lack in energy. And whenever there is a suppression that happens, the energy gets stagnated. This is what happens internally in our system. So the real issue, it is actually the blockage. So we all think that we need more energy. We all tend to gather more energy, sleep more, drink caffeine and other energy drinks so that we get more energy. But most often, the real shift happens when we stop blocking these energy leaks. We all have that energy, but unknowingly and knowingly, these energy are getting leaked. So today, this week, we will learn about how these energies are getting blocked and how we can release them, how we can actually harness these energies. So let us give attention. Let us just reflect when we move toward this meditation. Just sit with these questions or maybe contemplate with these questions. Where does our energy flow naturally? And where do you resist? And what drains you quietly? So, after meditation, maybe you can just ponder upon this as a reflection as to what is happening. Maybe you can even journal these, write these questions and journal this for yourself, or just pay attention where exactly this is happening. So, this is very important at the fundamental level. Now, let's carry one simple thought forward. Okay. Energy is not about doing more, it's about allowing the flow. So whenever we drop that resistance, energy naturally returns to a balancing state. So let us go with the basics. So today, let us understand this at the very basic level.